Today I thought that Python doesn't have that many reserved keywords, so I thought why not give it a try and create the most complicated hello world program where I have to use all the reserved keywords in Python. Let's see where it leads us. We can start with importing a couple of functions from the asyncio module, and the first one we can actually alias as R in order to be able to kill 3 birds with 1 stone, and now we got 3 keywords used in 1 line of code. Then we're doing something ugly and creating a global variable, but its only purpose is for us to be able to use the global keyword later in the program. Then we're creating a class hello because we have to use the class keyword, and then we can define a few functions, but we start with the getHello, which will be a generator function, and that's where we will use the yield keyword. Then the fun begins and we have to use the async keyword, and we just create an async function. It's called getHelloWorldStir. And since we need to complicate our program even more, we create a new list, which will be an empty list initially, but we will fill it up and then create an actual hello world string. But before we do that, this next punctuation mark seems to be a good candidate for the non-local keyword. So what we're doing here is creating an inner function, which is a function inside of our function, and we're using the non-local keyword to override the value of the next punctuation mark variable that is outside this inner function. And here we are able to use if, elif, and else keywords. So again, we get a few bonus points here. And even though this function will never reach this last else block, it's still a good practice to add it just in case our program changes in the future and we want some explicit behavior. But since this is not a video about best practices, but rather about the worst practices you can implement, let's start with let's continue with the try block, which will be helpful because we will actually raise an exception within this block and then catch it and then do some cleanup later. But first we can use the assert keyword and make sure that next punctuation mark actually has been changed. Nothing really interesting is happening in these 2 lines of code. We're basically appending the word and the punctuation mark into our final hello list, so we could make the hello world string later in the program. And then since we have to use the await keyword, why not just await sleep? And as I mentioned earlier, here we're gonna raise the value error, which will be immediately caught in our except block right here. We can either catch all the exceptions, but since we know the exception type, we'll just catch the correct exception type. And finally, we're entering the finally block. And in this block, we're actually going to delete or use the del keyword to delete our next punctuation mark, which will basically erase it from memory. And since we have to use the return keyword somewhere, we can do it right here by joining our final hello list on empty string, generating a hello world string. It looks like we are still about 11 keywords behind, so we have to use with, while, and a couple of other keywords. So what we can do is create this function that will write the string to a file, but since we still have to use the while loop, we'll do it 1 letter at a time. And using file allows us to use the with keyword, so we can open or create a new file in the write mode with the W letter here. And since we have not used and or keywords yet, we will iterate 1 letter at a time and create a couple of conditions, so in the end we will only write the hello part to the file. This also will be a good candidate to use the continue and break keywords, so we could either continue in execution in the loop or break out of the loop. And the first thing we're gonna do is check if our letter is a punctuation letter. And if not, then we are gonna write it to a file and then continue the loop. And since we'll be either continuing or breaking, then we need to increment the index in each of those blocks, otherwise our program will never stop executing. The next keyword we can use is pass, and for that we can just create a method and literally just put pass into that and nothing will happen. And we still have to put lambda in somehow in here, so we can just create a lambda method inside the class. So the first underscore is basically a discarded self argument, and what we can do is just make this function convert the string to lowercase, and then we can use it in our toFile method and write hello in lowercase toFile. Just like that, we have used 33 out of the 36 keywords that were provided to us. But in Python, you never really explicitly compare with false or true. You just do if blah or if not blah. So I'm not even gonna bother with those. And then pack parser is actually specific to just Python 3.9. And it is like an Easter egg. So what I would advise you to do is go figure out how to get Python 3.9 either in virtual environment or in Docker, and basically just do $_peg_parser $_ and tell me in the comments what it told you after you run the program, of course. And now what we need to do with our program is create an instance of the hello class, and then we're going to run it with a synceo and print the result to the terminal, and also run our toFile method and write it to the file, write hello to the file. So let's see if it actually works. And we do get the output hello world in the terminal, so let's check the file, and we do get all lowercase hello in the file as well. And if you want to know another shorter and unexpected way to write hello world in Python, then click on the next video.